Hello my Scrappy friends, it is Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters and thank you for joining me for Confessions of a Paper Addict Cutfiles design team layout. So for this layout I am using the 6x6 style, sort of go-to design style that is around at the moment. I specifically saw it over on fellow DT member Rebecca's channel. She's doing a bit of a series and this was one of her step up series. So I have adopted this idea and I'm using this along with my cut file to create my layout today. So I've taken the same 12x12 piece of paper and cut it in half. I then trimmed the side with the love hearts just a smidge, like a teeny tiny amount, 1/8 of an inch. I distressed the edges with some Distress Oxide in red and in some black as well, which you can't super see, but there's a little bit of an effect there. And I then mounted them both onto plain white cardstock. Now the side with the love hearts, you can see just a tiny slither of white all the way around the edge, but the striped side is completely flush with the white cardstock, so you cannot see that. I have then taken my 4 photographs and I have layered those up around the center-ish. They actually end up being a smidge too high. I wish I had have pulled them down just a tiny bit, but anyway. And I have popped those up on foam. Now these are some super fun photos from my photo booth at my wedding back in 2013. And I'm just having a lot of fun scrapbooking these for my album. I do have a wedding album, so these are just one or two of the ones that, you know, were a bit of a highlight on the night. My family, my bridesmaids, that kind of thing. I'm then using the Lucky Us, well, this entire thing is the Lucky Us collection. The paper is Lucky Us as well by Pink Paisley to add all of my embellishments. I find this collection quite a challenging collection to use. I don't often have a need for Valentine's Day collections, so I have decided to make the most of using it on this particular layout. So you can see off to the left hand side of my layout there, I have got my cut file backed but not cut flush yet. So I am simply backing this cut file with vellum. It is quite a busy layout. And I really don't want the cut file to get lost. I want them to sort of pop off the page. So they are cut on plain white cardstock and then they are simply backed with vellum, just so that when they're on top of any ephemera or any pattern paper, they still stand out on their own. They are called photo props over in the COAPA Cutfiles Etsy store, and of course I'll have that linked in the description box down below, so there'll be a link directly to this cut file as well as a link to the Etsy shop. There'll also be a link to the Facebook group, which I highly recommend you join, as it is a super fun group with lots of amazing ladies sharing layouts, and gents of course sharing layouts and just sharing general scrapbooking chit chat, and it's a really fun group. I will make sure I remind you that you answer all of those questions because they are quite important if you are going to be accepted into the group. So this next little section of my video takes a little bit longer in terms of recording and getting it out on the page, because I am going to start fiddling around with my cut file a little bit, but I really wanted to show you the process of what it is exactly that I do with my cut files when I'm still at this stage. So I'm going to go ahead and fiddle around with this sticker, this Better Together sticker that's going to be my title. I didn't want it stuck flat to the page, so I am going to cut out some few little fiddly bits of foam, but that's just to get you prepared for what's going to come up with the cut file, because I am going to fiddle around with mounting that as well. In terms of my layout, some of those, nearly everything on my layout is a sticker off a sticker sheet. Some of that has been popped up on foam, some of it is flat to the page, just to add a little bit of dimension and a little bit of difference on the page. I don't really have a visual triangle effect happening here. I've kind of just got a big central cluster. I've got all of my ephemera and bits and bobs just sort of all the way around the entire layout. So I feel that that works in a layout in a design like this though, when all your photos are central in a big blob as well. So now that I've gone ahead and popped that up on foam, it is time to start working with my cut file. So I cut all of my vellum out from around the back of the cut file, and now I am up to teeny tiny slithers of foam off my foam sheet to pop up these on foam, because I do want these sort of popped up against the rest so they'll be at the same level of my photographs and not directly touching my stickers, just again to help them pop off the page and create a little bit more, they catch your eye a little bit more than if they were sitting flush on the page. And you can see how effective that vellum is just to help sort of dull what's around it and help those cut files pop out. Now, if you have been watching my channel, you will know that when I say vellum, I actually am cheating and really mean tracing paper. I don't use vellum because it is so much more expensive and so much harder to get. I actually just use tracing paper. It's way cheaper and I find it just as effective. It's not as thick or as what vellum is, but I personally have never once torn my tracing paper, so I find that it works fine for me as well. So just a little just a little tip. If you're finding vellum is hard to find or too expensive, that tracing paper works well. You can also print directly onto tracing paper as well. I don't know if you need a specific printer. I did it on my printer at work, which is like one of those photocopiers. So that might make a difference because it wouldn't be wet ink, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but I was able to print directly onto vellum as well, onto the tracing paper as well, and that was perfect. So I probably won't go back to using vellum just from a cost-effective fact. The only downside, as you can see right now, is that because it's see-through, I've got to cut such teensy tiny little slithers so that I'm only putting foam on the white section of my cut file, which is super fiddly, but I promise it's worth it in the end when the whole layout comes together and the outcome is so smashing that I just can't help myself. And of course, I'm sure you can all see already why I chose this cut file for this particular layout. It is such a simple and quick cut file, but it has such a massive effect on this particular layout. Although the layout was pretty before I added the cut file, I absolutely love the way this themed cut file matches just identically with my photos and how it just ties it all together. Like, the lips are just perfect because we've got those lips, the mustache, the sunglasses. It is just 100% on point and I love it. Finishing it off with a little splatter of silver and some splatters of white, just to help sort of pop the page a little bit. Then I decided to add a few little puffy love hearts, and I'm going to call this one done. So as I mentioned earlier, do not forget to check that description box for links to the Etsy shop and for links to this exact cut file, as well as the COAPA Facebook group. And I hope you have enjoyed watching this fun layout that I created with you today. I love it. I'm so impressed with it. I love this cut file and I'm just so pleased with how this turned out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a very happy, scrappy week.